All right, we are now on the 7th paragraph of the Mamar of the Chassidic speech, Chassidic essay.
It's Zion?
I think we have got it to Zion, didn't we?
I'm not sure.
Yes, we did, because you weren't here.
Okay.
You weren't here. We'll do the kitzur. We'll do the summary.
Okay.
Now, what is the Rebbe trying to explain here? You see, Chabad took it on themselves, as we said before, to complete the work of Abraham. Abraham was called, his name was changed from Avram, which means he was a high father. Av means father, Ram means very high. He was a very high holy person. To be Avraham, to be it says in the Torah, father of all nations. After he got his circumcision, God said, now you have a covenant, and you're going to be the father of Hamon Goyim Nesaticha. You will be the father of all the nations. That's what Rashi explains. You'll be the father of all mankind. What does he mean, the father of all mankind? What does that mean? It means that spiritually, what do you want to call it? Existentially, you are going to point the whole world to the direction that God wants it to be in. God is the creator. He created the world for a purpose, and you're going to fix it up. Adam, the first man, was really supposed to have done this. If he wouldn't have eaten from the tree, he would have done it. And from the time of Adam until Abraham, which is approximately 2,000 years, the world was in total confusion. In the meantime, there was the flood. There was what's called the dispersion from the Tower of Babel, Migdal Babel. And then came along Abraham. Abraham came along, and he was the first one to tell the world that there's a creator, and that the creator is creating everything all the time. He's creating every person all the time. And every person is connected to and obligated to and responsible to the creator. And what does the creator want? That this world should be a good place. That's all the creator wants. The creator wants that this physical world should be a good place. All these ideas of going to heaven, and these are all true. But that's just like a, what do you want to call it, a pension. Like when you finish work, you used to get a gold watch. That's what going to heaven is. Going to heaven, you get this big gold watch, you get all these prizes and wonderful pleasures and everything. But in this world, you give God pleasure. You do what God wants, and God gets pleasure. Nachas ruach, reach nichoach, nachas ruach shamarti v'naser rotzoni. God gets pleasure that He said something and His will was done. This refers also to the non-Jews, to the whole world. Avram did it, Yitzchak did it. The only one that's going to really finish the work of Abraham is the Mashiach, and that's the Rebbe. Chabad took it on themselves. Every Rebbe of Chabad is the Mashiach of that generation. They took on themselves this goal of bringing the whole entire world to realize there's a creator that creates them, and that you shouldn't worship anything else because it just diverts you from the true directions. Manufacturers' directions.
You're not saying, I know you're not saying, but you're not saying that we should worship the Rebbe's as Mashiach.
Mashiach will bring everyone to worship only God. But in the meantime, let's say a person like Abraham. we Jews, we pray to the Beit HaMikdash. We pray in the direction of the Beit HaMikdash. Why the direction of the Beit HaMikdash? Because the Beit HaMikdash is a physical place in the world, and there was revealed God. There was revealed the fact that God is creating everything. Everywhere else you don't see it, but in the Beit HaMikdash you saw it. And even more, in the Beit HaMikdash it was revealed that everything is being created for a purpose. And the Holy of Holies was the Torah, the two tablets. The second temple, it was also there, but it was hidden down deep, but it was still in the Holy Temple. So the fact that God is creating the world, and why God is creating the world, why God is creating each and every person, is creating each and every person constantly, that's the Beit HaMikdash. So everybody would bow down to the Beit HaMikdash. They didn't worship the Beit HaMikdash, but they bowed down. The same thing as the Rebbe. The purpose of the Rebbe is to show that every human being, like this purpose of this mimer, every human being is a Beit HaMikdash, is a holy temple. Every Jew is a holy temple. It says that in the future, the world will bow down to the Jews. Why not? Well, because God is revealed through the Jews. In other words, through the Jews, like the Beit HaMikdash, you can see that God is creating everyone, everywhere. But people just don't feel it. When you see a person that does feel it and that he embodies it, so this is an awesome thing. And it brings you to realize who you are. So of course, nobody was worshiping the Rebbe in place of God or in addition to God. But it's like the Holy Temple. Through the Rebbe you could see God. Like watching a television, you can see a program on the television. Right? Because the television is totally in tune, what's it called, bittul. It's totally surrendered to the television waves that are in the room. Here in this room is filled with television waves. Right? You don't believe me? Look, see, can't you see? Can't see. You bring a television here, suddenly you see, so the programs, it's interesting. The same thing, the world is filled with godliness, it's filled with meaning, it's filled with blessing. You see it? Don't see it. Big professors don't see it, genius people don't see it, spiritual people don't see it. You have all these other religions run by spiritual people, truly spiritual people, seeking for the truth, interested in justice and purity and etc. And they don't see what God created. Suddenly comes a human being, the Rebbe, and he sees and he feels. Right? That's called a tzaddik. He sees and he feels that God is really creating him. You look at the Rebbe, you can see the program. You can see the godliness that's everywhere in the world. You couldn't see it without this receptor. Right? That's the Rebbe. So just like everybody watches the television, right, and they go berserk and they start yelling and screaming when they hear the television, they got to take the ball, he made a touchdown. What are you screaming at a box for? What are you, nuts? The guy made a touchdown in Seattle. What are you sitting over in Chicago? What are you making? Because you see something that's real, and you realize that this thing is really happening. You look at the Rebbe, and you see what godliness does, right? By all the other religions, what do they think godliness is? After you die, you go up to heaven, then you see God, you meet your Creator, you meet God, right? To a certain degree this is true, but that's not it says in the heavens you only see a ray of godliness. This physical world, you see the essence of God is in this world. That's what Chassidut tells us about. So that's the purpose of the Rebbe, that's the purpose of the goal eventually of Mashiach, that he'll bring the whole entire world. This is the whole entire world. They'll drop all the religions. All the religions are false. They're all fake. Sheker nachalu avotenu. It's one of the prophets. All the non-Jews will see that their religions were okay, it was nice, it was good, you had a religion, you believed in something, you wanted to believe in something, you're not going to get punished, don't worry about it, no punishment, but there's something much better. There's something much, much more true, that you worship the God who's creating you directly. He's creating you. He's not just creating some person 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, that his spirit comes to you, or you're worshiping some sort of a level, or so, but as we see in the world, there's a lot of bad in the world. Says the Rebbe, all of the bad in the world comes from the two letters, at least that's how he explains in this. Kuf and Resh. A Kuf is a bad letter because it's got one stick that goes down and it's not balanced. A Resh is a bad letter because it hasn't got that little protrusion on the right side on the top. A Dalet does. A Dalet is a good letter. The letter Hey is the fixing up of the letter Kuf. Letter Kuf, there's one leg that comes down. You cut that leg off, and we'll see what that leg is. That leg represents action which is not thought out. Action which is not based on anything. Okay. Kitzur. Daled Varesh. The letter Daled Varesh. This is the summation of the sixth paragraph. Shneim Perush Dalud. Both of them mean poverty, poorness. Daled the Kedusha, the letter Daled of holiness, a holy type of humility, if you want humility, is the Yud Me'achorav. There's a little Yud after it. Tachlit Bittul, a total surrender. Ba'al Yudei Zehu Klila Kabbalah, it becomes a a vessel, a receptacle, a receiver, and to receive godliness. Like I said about the television, right? A television, if it's working properly, it can perceive these television waves. But if it's not working, it can't. The same thing a person. If a person is working properly, then he can feel godliness. He can feel that he's being a creator. It's a happy feeling. That's good surrender. Yam Shil B'Talmud, this is compared to a pupil, Shetzorech Liot Beheder, a pupil when he's learning Torah or learning anything in university, Mahavdil. There has to be a complete emptiness of a Metzius. The time when he's learning any subject, he has to be just one big question mark. He wants to understand. He feels empty. Be'et Kabbalah, at the time he receives, Masha'en Kein Ba'ot Reish, which is not the case of the letter Reish. The letter Reish shows on a poverty in spiritual. A person is impoverished. Spiritually, what does it mean? He's full of himself. He's full of himself, and therefore there's no way that he can receive anything spiritual. That's the Reish. And the letter Dalid is that he's longing for spirituality. He's longing for godliness. In a way, you can't confuse. It's a mistake. You can't confuse godliness and spirituality. Spirituality is a ladder to understanding God. Why? Because spirituality is just a creation. It's not God. It's just a creation. It's a creation of God. But it's a different type of creation than the physical world. It's a type of a creation that in order to grasp it, you have to sort of go out of your normal physical mundane way of thinking. And that's like the purpose of prayer. Prayer is called a ladder. There's some prayer books where it says the prayer of Asiya, of Yetzira, of Bria, Atzilus. These 4 different levels of spirituality, because when a person gets himself used to trying to perceive something spiritual, as he doesn't trust himself as much, doesn't rely as much on his previous knowledge, his previous way of thinking. You have to go out of yourself. This going out of yourself, emptying yourself, that's the ultimate vessel for godliness. Godliness, for the creator of the spiritual. Right? So all the other religions are spiritual. And Judaism is also spiritual. That's what the Kabbalah, that's what Kabbalah is, the Zohar, talking about the spiritual worlds. But you can't make a mistake and think that spiritual is God. Spirituality is not the goal. Right? There's the Kabbalah Center and these things. Spiritual, it's wrong. Spirituality is not the goal. It's not the goal to understand, what Chachman Bina is and Das and make up your own explanations what it is, just to be a spiritual person, not to be affected by the world. Right? There's all this coaching and things like that. That's good for that. Maybe you can put this idea a little bit into coaching. Here we're talking about a person feeling responsibility to the Creator. Responsibility. You feel responsible to the Creator. That's supposed to be the idea. That's the letter Daled. So responsibility. That's the emptiness that you feel. You feel something is missing. You're striving for something. That's the secret of happiness, the secret of meaning. Okay, let's go. Zion. Hine. The letter Daled. The letter Daled, which is, the letter Daled is different from the letter Reish. How they're shaped exactly the same, but the letter Reish is rounded at the top, and the letter Daled has this little Yud sticking on the back. And we said in the previous moment that the letter Yud represents the sphera of the 10 sphera of Yesod. Yesod means attachment to what's above you. The complete surrender to what is above you. Yesod. Ha'ot Yud, the Yesod, the Breslev Chassidut puts a big emphasis on Tikkun HaYesod, fixing up what you're attached to, fixing up what you're connected to. Right? Ultimately, you're supposed to be connected to the tzaddik. The tzaddik is also Yesod. That's the aspect of Yesod. Yesod is the second from the bottom of the Sphirot. From the bottom, it's Malchut and then Yesod. It says the letter Yud of those Daled, Masha Bazem Mitchalek, which this is what differentiates the Tamun, the picture form of the letter Daled from the Reish. Hu me'achor of Davka. It is behind the letter Daled. It's like in the beginning of the letter Daled. All the letters are going In Hebrew, they go from right to left. So, like when you're driving your car, what's behind you is the what do you call it? The trunk. Right? The trunk is behind you because you're going this direction. Also, the letters are going this way. So, what's in the back of the dalet is this little yud. This little yud on the right side. Hayud, imshu od zira. This letter yud, even though it's a small letter. Now, you have to remember that the world. These are not letters in the books. These are true. The letters in the books are yud and this, but here we're talking about the letters that God created the world from. These letters are not part of the world. These letters are the connector between the Creator and the creation. God created through these letters. So it says these letters, the letter yud, even though this is a small letter, Mikala Otiot, from all the letters. Hine, who Rosh Lakala Otiot, but the letter Yud is the beginning of all the letters. To call Ot, that every letter, Hari Tchilato Ot Yud. Every letter begins with a letter Yud. Letter Yud. Okay, how does it begin with letter Yud? We talked about this last time. A sofer, a scribe, when you write letters, you always start off, you make a little line, right? And then from that line you draw. No matter what line it is, you make a little line, and then you draw from that line, because you have ink on your pen, draw. So that's a yud. That little line, a yud doesn't have to be any real size. I mean, according to the laws of sofrut, it does, but there's a shape for a yud also. But technically, a yud is just a little spot. So every letter starts off with this letter yud. The call out that every letter tchilato is yud. Who masha yud? That's what it says. The yud is created the world to come. We say in Uvo Letzion, in the Votzion, Yud Ke Hashem Tzur Olamim, with the letters Yud and the letter Hey, God made all the worlds. And the Midrash says that Yud, God created the future world. The world, the future world means either the world that comes after you die, you go to heaven, or future world means the days of the Mashiach, or the future world can also mean the raising of the dead. All these are in the future. The Alzeh, that on this it says, Ki kol b'shamayim v'oretz. It says that everything in the heavens and the earth, v'targum achid b'shamayim v'oretz, united in the heavens and the earth. This is the sphere of Yesod. And the Yesod, shebechinat malchut makabel mimenu, the level of malchut receives from it. I see that I did this with Mr. Smith. We did this before. We'll do it again. Umad achid b'shamayim v'oretz. That God is one in the heavens and the earth. Shemayim v'oretz. Shemayim is Eshumayim. That's the level of Chesed and Gevura, and Oretz is Malchus. Okay, again, what does this mean? It means like this. In the prayers when we pray in the morning prayer, so there's one of the prayers is right before the song that the Jews sang on the sea, Az Yashir. There's Vayavorech David, right? David. This was the day that the base of David, the day that the ark returned to the Jewish people. The ark had been stolen. A big story. And the ark came back, and David HaMelech sang the song, Vayavorech David as Hashem, and he said, "Blessed are you, God, from the world. L'cha Hashem ha'gedula v'ha'gevura v'ha'tiferes v'ha'netzach v'ha'hod. He called b'shamayim v'oretz." Says to you, God, was the gedula. That's Chesed. Gevura, Tiferes, that's Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes. Netzach v'hod, that's the Sfirot. B'kol b'shamayim v'oretz, everything in the heavens and the earth. And then it says, L'cha Hashem ha'mamlacha, ha'melucha, to you God is the kingship. So we have all the 7 Sfirot, which are called the emotions, except for Yesod. Yesod isn't there. It says Hashem ha'gedula v'ha'gevura v'ha'tiferes v'ha'netzach v'hod v'hayesod. Doesn't say hayesod. It says kol b'shamayim v'oretz. It says kol b'shamayim v'oretz. That represents the level of Yesod. Why? Because the level of Yesod, what is the level of Yesod? It's a connector. It connects between what's above, the heavens, and what's below, the earth. Kabbalistically, the heavens, that's the emotions of God, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, the 5, and those are the 5 main ones. And the receiver, the ultimate receiver, is Malchut. That's the physical world. So that's the heavens and the earth. Right? The earth is called Mother Earth. Earth is the receiver. Earth receives from what's above it. It receives the seed you put in, it receives sunlight, it receives rain, it receives fertilizer, it receives. The earth is nothing in its own. There's nothing of its own. It just receives. So that's the aspect of Malchut. Kabbalistically, that's Malchut. That's also God's mouth, God's speech. We talked about that. We're going to talk about it again. What goes into this, what brings the heavens and the earth, that's the aspect of Yesod. That's the tzaddik. That's what tzaddikim are. That's what we just talked about before, what the Rebbe is. To bring godliness into the world. This is by means of the sphira, by means of the facet of God called Yesod, who yichud, it unifies chesed gevura, it unifies what's called God's love, His goodness and His severity, and the lowest aspect, which is Malchut. Of the Reish, and that's signified by this little letter Yud in the back of the Dalet, but the Reish says, there's a pasuk, and I think it's in Mishle, a Reish, and call. A poor person, a Reish, hasn't got this level of call. Simply meaning it means a poor person has nothing. That's what the King Solomon has to tell us, that the poor person has nothing. That's what makes him poor. It says, Kabbalistically, it means the poor person, why is he poor? Because he hasn't got this level of call. It could be he's got billions of dollars, but he's not connected, this level of call. Yesod, he's not connected to anything above him. He thinks that he's God. The Ba'ot Reish, that the letter Reish, and call, it hasn't got this level of call b'shamayim ba'oretz. Ein lem spirit Yesod, they're lacking this level of Yesod hamechaber, which links, which links you. Yesod in the human personality is, we can call it curiosity, interest, attachment, devotion. Right? A person is devoted to something, he's attached to it, he realizes this thing has something that's greater than himself. So that's Yesod, means attachment, interest. A teacher brings in the Tanya, a teacher that's interested in his pupils. He's attached to them, he wants them to learn. That's Yesod. That's the aspect of connection, right? Also connection to what's above you. Yesod is connecting. It's interest, it's feeling this feeling of emptiness that drives you to connect to something other than yourself. Gam Dibur, also this aspect of Dibur comes at Tachlit HaHelam Ve'Esther. Also speaking is completely concealed. God's speech, you don't feel that God is speaking and creating the world. You don't feel anything. Like it says, like King David said, I was silent, I was quiet, I did not say anything. Also the speaking comes completely concealed. What does it mean speaking? God is speaking all the time, He's creating the world. You don't feel it. You don't feel anything. Therefore your speech also, there's no Torah, there's nothing good. Because the light and the life force that enlivens the Sitra Achra is just a ray of a chitzonius. God keeps the world going, but He does it in a very, very external way. And it's ultimately hidden. Yaakov said, Yeshli Kol, and Esav said, Yeshli Rav. Yaakov said, I have everything. When Yaakov and Esav met, so Esav said, I'll give you some presents. Yaakov said, listen, I've got everything. I have everything. And Esav said, I have a lot. What does it mean, lot? A lot means many, many things. Yaakov, he's got everything. It could be that he had 5 cents in his pocket. For him, he says, I've got everything. I have everything I need. The Bekadusha, the Bechinas of Madregas Yaakov, he said, Yeshli Kol, I have call. What does it mean call? I have an interest in what's above me. I have Yesod. That's the aspect of it. Bechinat Kol, the Achid B'Shamayim, this is the level of call that unites the heavens and the earth. But Esav, which he's the level of Klippa and Sitra Achra, he says, Yeshli Rav. He's got a lot. What does it mean he has a lot? He got the whole entire world, right? The whole entire world, everything in the world, he's got nothing. Meaningless. Here we see we have the in the Purim, we read the story about Achashverosh. Achashverosh ruled the whole world, right? His wife got him mad, killed his wife. He went berserk. Right? He went berserk, didn't know what to do, killed his wife, now he wants another wife, the whole thing, right? He had everything he needed. He has to have exactly this type of wife, this type of a woman, right? If it doesn't meet his this, even he gets married, he kills her. Right? He's not connected to any sort of purpose, any sort of reason. So that type of life, it says, is just a very small, hidden, concealed, contracted level of godliness. It's godliness. God is creating all these evil people. How does he create them? Through an evil? Shehu ein lo bechinat kol. He hasn't got this level of call that joins. Esav doesn't have this level of call, namely a surrender to what's above you, like Yaakov did. Ki'im Rav. All he had was Rav. Shu riboy hashpaos gashmi. He said a lot of physicality. Kamayim Rav Matifta. In other words, what are we saying over here? Sometimes success can be your biggest enemy. Sometimes success can be the opposite of life, of your purpose in the world. Oh, the whole world goes for success. There's books about success and the seminars about how success, and there's coaching with this. Got to be successful. How am I going to be successful? I'm going to stand on the stage and everything's going to shine. I'll be in the newspapers. This is what everybody wants. Right? This is what everybody wants. Sometimes this can be the total opposite of what you're supposed to be. The worst thing in the world. The best example is these people who win the lottery. They got everything in the world. The next day they found them dead in some street. Somebody killed them. They killed themselves. Ukamayim Rav Matifta, like the head of the yeshiva in heaven. Man de ihu zer ihu Rav, uman de ihu Rav ihu zer. Said in this world, a person who is big, it could be that he is very small, and a person that's very small could be that he's very big. So in the heavens, there's another story also with one of the Tanaim that he died, went up to heaven, and he was dead, and his son was crying. His only son, was crying for him. Daddy, come back. Well, how could you God, you said you shouldn't take the mother off of the chicks, right? Shalach ata'im. If you want to take somebody, take me, take the bunny, take the sons, don't take my father. And his father came back to life. He said, Dad, what did you see? He said, Olam hafok reisi. I said, I saw an upside world in the heavens. What down here is big. Yeah, you're a king, you're a leader, you tell everybody what to do. Up there is very small. But down here, who is very small? Right? A person that's not looking all the time for greatness, but this, up there he's very big. What does it mean? It doesn't mean that it's forbidden to be rich. Every Jew, the Rebbe said it a lot of times, is supposed to be rich. Every Jew, like King Solomon. But that's not our goal. That's a thing that should come as a side effect of being honest. You should go into business. You should invest money. You should be a good businessman, a clever businessman. But don't think that your cleverness is making you the money. It's not making you the money. The money is coming from Bill Gates, who has $100 billion, is not 100 times smarter or clever or whatever than a person who has only $1 billion. $1 billion is not so bad. And what about a person that has $1 million? So Bill Gates is 1,000 times, right? Smart. It's not right. It's not so. Right? Not so. A million times. What is it? How does it go? Yeah, no, 1,000 times. Right? It's not 1,000. We'll figure it out.
10,000.
And 10,000 times. Right? He's 10,000 times smarter. And then there's, of course not. No, it is 100,000 times. Oh, that's what it is. 100,000. He's got 100 billion. This guy has 1 million. He's 100,000 times. What are you talking about? There's no such thing. You can't have nobody's 100,000 times smarter or greater than another person. Even the people that have higher IQs. Right? This guy has a high IQ of this person. Sometimes the guy who's a simple Gornish, doesn't know nothing, has an IQ of 3. Who knows what he has an IQ? Suddenly he invents something, right? The guys who can't even sign their name, suddenly he becomes a multi-billionaire. He invents a toothpick or something. Right? It depends on God's grace that he gives a blessing to a person. Of course, you have to have the vessels for it. He says, but if a person is small and he realizes, listen, everything I have comes from God. What do I do? Why am I number one? It's a blessing from God. I practice, I try. There's people who practice and they try just like me. And all of a sudden,
it's easy.
The Kedusha, the Iuzer, Tazer is garment. What does it mean in holiness that a person makes himself small? Kamosh Katuv, like it says, Mi yukom Yaakov, who can make Yaakov stand up? Ki katanu, because he is small. Ihu Rav, a person who makes himself small, who's not always looking for success and to be jealous of other people, he's great. But Giloi Bechinas Kol. Because he revealed this level of call, of everything. If you're attached to the Creator, you're attached to everything. Of a man Dihu Rav, a person who is great, the Yeshlo Rav, he's got this level of much greatness. He's looking for more and more and more. He's very small. The Laresh Ein Kol. Like I told you the story that somebody came in and they complained to the Rebbe, why is it that this big Chassid, he's got only torn clothes, and he's got what to finish the month on, and this some big movie star, he makes $5 million a year. And the Rebbe said the movie star is not happy, not even 1 minute of his life. And it ended up that movie star committed suicide. And he said, and this person is happy all the time. He's genuinely happy. He's got beautiful children. He's got a wonderful mind. He has a wonderful heart. He helps people. He always has a good word for people. He always is smiling at people, helping. Just it's a pleasure to be around them. And the movie star is always afraid of everyone and thinking everybody's going to try to take advantage of him. He's trying to take advantage of everybody else. Right? What type of a life is that? So you've got a lot of money. Your picture's in the paper. V'hu rak b'ashpa gashmius, because this is only physical. A person is concerned with the physical world, and it could be even a person who's concerned with the spiritual worlds also. There's people, these religions. Zeu the kasiv, that's what it says, kafirim rashu v'roivu. That the young lions, they make a lot of noise, but they're always hungry. Upirish Bezor, it says, Shakai al ayin parei hachag. This is kafirim, usually means young lions. They make a lot of noise, and it says this is talking about parim, like the oxen that are brought on Sukkot. That's what the Zohar says. The Zohar is a midrash. A midrash takes the simple meaning of the words and it changes the meaning. It finds an alternate meaning for words. Right? The Zohar even goes deeper, and sometimes it finds Kabbalistic meanings and gematrias and numerical values and everything, because the Torah has to be taken on 4 different levels: pshat, simple meaning; remez, drush, and sod. The hints of the Torah, the homiletic meanings of the Torah, and the secret meaning of the Torah, the mysteries of the Torah. Because the Torah is a book that's given by God directly. This is not a simple piece of literature. It's not something that's another book in the library, even though it is a book in the library, but it's not to be taken at all in any way at just face value. It has to be taken at face value, but not only at face value. And there's all these different. So one of the meanings that says, Kfirim rashu v'roivu todor shayashem lo yachseru kol tov. That's the end of the pasuk. It says the Kfirim rashu, the young lions, they make a lot of noise and they're hungry. And the Zohar says this Kfirim is the Keparim, like the oxes of Sukkot. On Sukkot, the Jewish people bring on 7 days they bring the oxes, parim. Altogether, they bring 70. 7 days of the holiday. They bring 70, but they don't bring 10 each day. They start off, the first day they bring 13. Then the second day they bring 12. Then they bring 11. Then on the 4th day they bring 10. And then the rest of the days they make up for the extra that they had over in the first days. So the day after that they bring 9, and the day after that they bring 8, and then 7. And it ends up that it comes out to be exactly 70. So it ends up these oxen become less and less. Ro'ivu. Kefirim rashu she'em holchim u'mitma'atim. That they continue and become less and less. It's known that the ayin parim, that these 70 oxen, heim neged, they correspond to the ayin sarim. They correspond to what's called 70, how do you translate it? 70 chieftain angels. Now all the nations have spiritual powers that enliven them. And these spiritual powers are in what's called the spiritual part of Asiya. There are 4 worlds, if you want to call it 4 dimensions. The ultimate, highest dimension of world is called Atzilut. Below that is the world of Bria. Below that is the world of Yetzirah. Below that world of a Yetzirah is the world where the angels are. Below that is the world of Asiya. Asiya is this physical world, but this physical world is divided into 2. There's spiritual Asiya and physical Asiya. This is according to Kabbalah. What connects the spiritual to the physical are the stars. The stars in the zodiac. And there are people that can look at the stars, even though it's not really a Jewish thing. But there's people looking at the stars and they can tell things about the world. A Jewish person is not supposed to depend on his future from the stars. Because the stars are right. They're right 90% of the time, 95% of the time. Who knows? A person is really a genuine, true astrologer. But a good percentage of the time, enough. Like if you wouldn't buy a car if the car works 90% of the time, works 99% of the time. You wouldn't buy it. The same thing with astrology. So it says the stars, they connect between what's called the Sarim, these 70 chieftain angels. The stars connect them to the world. And I remember once I read a book. I used to be into this a long time ago about Tibetan. What was it called? Tibetan Buddhism, something like that. Anyway, some sort of a Tibetan meditation process, right? And there was called the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's a whole crazy.
I heard of it. Never read it.
Yeah, I did. I read it. I don't know how much I got out of it, but I read it. As there's also the Egyptian Book of the Anyway. So there they say.
Night of the Living Dead.
What? Right. Anyway, so there, to tell you the truth, the whole thing is a big sort of a big cholent for me. But at the time, I was reading all these things about the meditation processes. I was sort of thinking about getting into it, but anyway, so they said eventually you can attach. The goal is to attach yourself to one of the chieftain angels, which are on the mountains above the mountains of Tibet. That's what it said over there. So I figured this is not for me. This is definitely not for me. I'm not going to go home and say, Ma, you'll never believe this.
Climb the mountain.
I got it, right? I got attached to the mountain. Oh, my son. I'm so proud of you. And so I decided not. But nevertheless, from this, when I read this in Hasidus, actually I read the book of the Zohar in English, and then they were talking about these chieftain angels, and I started realizing this is what these guys are going for. This is the lowest of the worlds, the highest spiritual level of the lowest of the worlds. That's their goal. You understand? That's the goal. And we in Judaism, our goal is the creator of this whole business of Atzilus and Bria and the whole creator. And where does the creator want to be? Here in this physical world. Right? He cares about the physical people in this physical world. Every life is precious. The creator himself, above Atzilus, above all these angels, above this. Vashpa Gashmias. This physical flow is called Rashu. It's called poor. Shu b'chinas ani. This is called poverty. This is poorness. In other words, the whole physical world, if a person is only connected to the physical world, you can have the whole entire thing, you end up being totally poor and impoverished. That's the letter Resh. It supplies all of the successes and all the wonderful things that are in this world, but it cuts you off from anything above yourself. Makes you feel bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the point where person bursts. Right? The Rebbe once brought Howard Hughes as an example. The guy was a multi-billionaire, and all he thought about day and night, every single second, was only himself. Had absolutely nothing, to the point where he didn't even give charity. So this is the letter Resh, and this is what Judaism comes to fix up by just putting a little bit of a surrender onto it. But the person has to do it himself. He can be taught. And that's the purpose of this mimer, is to teach us how to do it himself, how to do it ourselves. We're not talking here about other people. We're talking about us, ourselves, personally. We can't say, I'm not like that. The Rebbe is saying, if you read this, you're like that also. I am like that also. A person has to figure out how to find this himself and attach himself more to the creator of the universe, as we'll talk about next time, God willing.